When a woman isn't aware of her inner masculine side, the animus, she may unknowingly project it onto men in her life. Instead of seeing men as they truly are, she sees them as containers for her own unclaimed strength, logic, or authority. She's not looking for a partner. She's looking for someone to be the powerful, decisive, or wise figure already living inside her mind. At first, this can feel like intense attraction, love at first sight. But it's not really about the man. It's about the fantasy she's built around him. He's cast in a role he didn't audition for, the strong leader, the wise guide, the fearless protector. When he inevitably fails to live up to that perfect image, she feels betrayed, not because he changed, but because he was never that person to begin with. She doesn't feel seen, she feels used. Not valued for who she is, but chosen for what she needs him to be. That look in her eyes isn't connection, it's recruitment. She's not falling for him. She's falling for an idea, a hidden blueprint from her unconscious. This isn't love as two people growing together. It's love as projection, a silent casting call written long before they ever met. Carl Jung discovered that much of attraction isn't about reality. Women don't always choose men. They choose fantasies of strength, purpose, and meaning. When this inner image stays unconscious, it becomes powerful and controlling. It pulls women toward men who seem bold, dominant, or mysterious, often those who are emotionally distant or even reckless, while rejecting kind, stable men who don't fit the script. The real path to healthy love isn't finding the perfect man. It's facing the animus within, owning her own strength, speaking her truth, and making her own decisions. When she does, she no longer needs men to carry her power for her. You're not the main character in her story. You're a proxy, or a chosen actor, cast to play a role written long before you arrived. When she doesn't know her inner masculine, the animus, she projects it onto men, expecting them to carry her strength, logic, or purpose. You're not loved for who you are, but for what you represent, her unconscious ideal. At first, it feels like destiny. But it's not connection, it's possession. She sees you not as a person, but as a symbol, the wise guide, the fearless leader, the man who makes her feel complete. When you show doubt, change, or fail to perform, the illusion shatters. She doesn't try to understand, she replaces you. Another man steps into the role, wearing the same invisible mask. The pain isn't in being left. It's in realizing, you were never seen. You were a mirror, a vessel, a projection. Jung didn't soften this truth. He said real love begins only when the fantasy collapses, when she stops projecting and finally meets you as a human being, not a savior. She isn't doing this on purpose. She's not in her true self. She's taken over by the animus, an inner force she doesn't control. You become a character in her unconscious drama, shaped by old wounds and unseen patterns. Men fall for it because no one teaches them the signs. That intense attraction. It's not depth, it's projection. When she says you're different, she's not seeing you. She's seeing the same old dream, and you're just the latest actor. The collapse happens when reality hits, when he shows fear, changes his mind, or fails to live up to the fantasy. Suddenly, the spark dies. She doesn't try to understand him. She just walks away. Not because he failed, but because he stopped playing a role he never agreed to. Jung called the way out individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. It starts by seeing projections for what they are, not love, but unconscious needs disguised as attraction. Real love begins only when the fantasy ends and two real people finally meet, not as saviors, but as flawed humans. Most men never start this inner work. Instead, they spend their lives trying to be chosen, shaping themselves to fit whatever woman gives them attention. They trade their truth for approval. This isn't love. It's self-abandonment. Individuation isn't about being rich, charismatic, or successful. It's raw and internal. It means facing your fears, your shame, your unhealed pain. It means stopping the blame of women, of past relationships, and starting to see yourself clearly. Jung taught, you don't become a man by being picked. You become one by choosing yourself. Your worth isn't earned through love or validation. It's claimed by standing alone, awake, honest, and free. A man who knows his inner world can't be hypnotized by projection. He's no longer a pawn in someone else's unconscious drama. He becomes the author of his own life. The real tragedy isn't being rejected. It's complicity, men molding themselves into perfect partners, calling it love, when it's really self-betrayal. Those who ignore their inner growth become trapped in cycles, chasing women who need them to be strong, then discarding them when they're not perfect. Men often stop being themselves in relationships, not out of weakness, but in hope that by pleasing, agreeing, and disappearing, they'll earn love. They wear masks of agreeability, hide their needs, and dissolve boundaries, believing this is what it means to be a good partner. But Jung revealed a hard truth. This doesn't create love, it kills attraction. The feminine is not drawn to predictability or constant availability. It's drawn to mystery, strength, and a man who stands firm in his own truth, someone who cannot be fully known or controlled. When a man makes himself completely transparent, always available, always agreeable, never resisting, he doesn't become cherished. He becomes invisible, replaceable, not because he failed, but because he stopped being a mystery worth exploring. The deeper loss isn't the relationship, it's losing himself. Many men fear solitude more than inauthenticity. They'd rather live a lie than stand alone. But Jung taught that real manhood begins in that solitude. Individuation, becoming who you truly are, requires a symbolic death, shedding the false self, the performer, the people-pleaser. It's painful. It's lonely. But through it, a man stops projecting and starts seeing himself and others clearly. Once you see the patterns, the roles, the illusions, the unconscious scripts, you can't unsee them. You notice the masks, not just on others, but on yourself. And when you speak this truth, you may be called cold, arrogant, or too intense. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror, and nothing threatens people more than seeing what they've refused to face. Jung said that everyone has both male and female parts inside them. In women, the inner masculine part is called the animus. If she doesn't know about it or work with it, she won't own her own strength, logic, or confidence. Instead, she unknowingly projects it onto men, expecting them to be strong, wise, or in charge. She's not doing this on purpose. She's not lying. She just doesn't realize she's living out an old story in her mind. She picks men who seem powerful, hoping they'll give her the strength she's missing inside. At first, she may idealize them. But when they show weakness or change, she feels betrayed, not because they failed, but because they no longer fit the role she gave them. The man feels it too. He thinks love is about proving himself. But he's not truly sane. He's just playing a part. When he stops performing, she may pull away. Not because of him, but because her inner drama needs a new actor. This cycle only ends when both men and women do the real work, facing their inner world. For a woman, that means owning her own voice, making her own decisions, and not expecting men to carry her power. It's hard. It means going into her fears, doubts, and pain. But when she does, she stops projecting. She sees men as real people, not heroes or villains. That's when real love can grow, not based on fantasy, but on truth. Carl Jung warned, people avoid inner work at all costs. Romantic relationships aren't escapes, they're mirrors. We project our missing parts onto partners, hoping they'll fix what feels broken inside. She didn't see you. She saw her animus, her inner masculine ideal, and cast you in that role. When you stopped playing along, you weren't just replaced. You were labeled the villain. But the truth is, you were never the problem. You were a reflection of her unclaimed strength. Until she faces it herself, she'll keep repeating the cycle. And you keep believing the next woman will finally see you. But until you ask, why do I keep attracting this pattern? You'll stay trapped. Blaming women won't free you. The deeper issue. You let yourself be chosen for a role you didn't agree to. A man who avoids his own depth, his feelings, fears, truth, becomes easy prey for unconscious projections. Freedom starts in solitude, in facing your shadow, in choosing yourself, not to be chosen, but to be whole. That's when you stop being a projection. That's when you become a man. Jung didn't believe in quick fixes. He taught that real growth comes through individuation, a lifelong journey of facing your inner emptiness, unhealed pain, and need for approval. Most men avoid this, choosing to perform, please, and fit in, because silence and solitude feel unbearable. That voice saying you're nothing without her? It fights to survive. But Jung's path is clear: stand alone. Not to become cold, but to become real, rooted, whole, free from needing to be chosen. And here's the paradox. When you stop seeking love, love finds you. Not because you're trying, but because you're whole. You no longer serve as a mirror for a woman's unconscious animus, her hidden masculine ideal. You're not her savior, her slave, or her enemy. You're a man who has faced himself. And in doing so, you finally see her, not as a goddess or a threat, but as a person on her own path. You can't save her. You can't fix her. You don't have to. Real love begins when the fantasies fall, and two real people meet, face to face, soul to soul. You can't rescue her from her inner battle, just as no one can rescue you from yours. The only way forward is your own path, walked with honesty. When you stop performing, when you stop seeking to be chosen, everything shifts. People grow uncomfortable. Your silence, your stillness, disrupts their roles. You no longer play along. Jung warned, the whole man isn't praised, he's feared. Society often resists those who awaken, who see through the illusions of love, approval, and role-playing. But true respect isn't earned by pleasing others. It comes from wholeness, from standing in your truth, no longer needing to be chosen. When you stop performing, women may be drawn, not to fix you, but to meet you. Because you're no longer a projection. You're real. And reality, though unsettling, is the only ground where real connection can grow. You become untouchable not through coldness, but through clarity, seeing the game for what it is, unconscious projection. When you no longer seek validation, those who depended on your approval may resent you. Women still trapped in the fantasy of the perfect man may call you distant or unfeeling, but what they really mean is, you can't be controlled. You've stepped off the script. You're no longer a character in her story. You're a man rooted in himself. Jung warned, the old gods haven't vanished, they've turned into neuroses. Men who say she's my everything aren't romantic, they're spiritually lost. They've handed their soul to a woman, expecting her to carry their purpose. But no one can bear that weight, and when she fails, they feel betrayed. You shouldn't. You should awaken. In that collapse, you face the truth. The work was never hers. It was always yours. And now, you choose, blame her, or begin. You can harden with bitterness, blame women, and retreat into anger, but that's just running. Or, as Jung demands, you can turn inward. Begin the terrifying, liberating journey of individuation, becoming whole not through another, but through yourself. The woman you're drawn to isn't just outside you. She reflects the anima, the inner feminine you've ignored. If you haven't faced this part of yourself, your depth, feeling, intuition, you'll keep projecting it onto women, turning them into fantasies. Every relationship becomes a search for completion, not connection. But when you turn inward, when you embrace your own emotional truth, creativity, and vulnerability, you stop chasing. You stand whole. And from that stillness, real attraction grows, not because you need her, but because you don't. You no longer attract those seeking a savior. You draw women who are also whole, those who face their own animus, their inner masculine. She doesn't need you to fix her. She stands beside you, eyes open, free of masks. This love isn't built on need. It's built on freedom, the freedom to choose, to stay, or to walk away. Jung called this individuation, becoming who you truly are. It's not easy. It's lonely. But it's the only path to real connection. When both people have done the inner work, love isn't about filling gaps. It's about sharing fullness. You meet not as halves, but as whole individuals. No scripts, no roles, just presence. True love begins when projections fall. It starts when we stop looking for someone to complete us, and start doing the inner work of individuation, facing our shadows, owning our emotions, and integrating the parts of ourselves we've ignored. Only then can we meet another as a whole person, not a savior. Only then can love be real, not a need, but a choice. Not a rescue, but a meeting of equals. If this hit home, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's one thing you're going to stop projecting onto others and start owning in yourself? If you're ready to wake up, grow, and build real connection, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Let's break the cycle, one honest conversation at a time.